everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my January wrap-up. So this is the first wrap-up of 2020, and I read a total of 23 books in January. 6 of them were physical books, 17 of them were ebooks, and I read 3 arcs, which were all e-arcs. January was a pretty good reading month for me. I found some new favorites. I binged an author, and I definitely read a decent amount of books. Overall, January was really good for me reading-wise, and I'm very happy with everything that I read, and I'm also really happy I knocked out some physical books as well. I'm gonna go ahead and jump straight in. So the first book I read was an arc, and that is Twisted Hearts by Cora Riley. This is book 5 in the Kimura Chronicles series. This is a dark mafia romance. This I received as an arc from the author, so thank you so much to Cora Riley and her team for this arc. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's probably my 4th favorite in the series so far. I liked both characters, but I think I didn't really like Gemma as much as I had wished I liked her. I don't know, I had like this perception, I guess, that in the other books she was like this tough, badass character, which she kind of is, but also not really. So I felt very conflicted on how I felt about Gemma and Savio. I liked him, but I also was frustrated with him at times just because he like didn't care. But I guess that was very much him. I don't know, I didn't love it as much as I'd hoped, but I love the series so much, and this was definitely a fantastic dark romance. Then I read Come to Daddy by Brianna Hale. I had seen Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers read this, so I decided to give it a shot, and I gave this 3 stars. I just don't think I really liked the characters all that much, and this just follows a girl who needs extra money, so she becomes a sugar baby essentially, and the sugar daddy that she has is kind of suspicious and things don't add up, so she's kind of very wary of him. I don't know, it's just like a decent read. Then I read Irresistible by Melanie Harlow. This is book 1 in the Cloverleaf Farms series. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked this. I have read Melanie Harlow before in the past and wasn't really a huge fan. I think I gave like most of her books 3 stars, but this one I really enjoyed. This follows a single dad to 3 girls, and he works for the Cloverleaf Farms company, and he's just trying to raise his daughters, trying to do the best that he can. Our female character Franny is a lot younger, so this is an age gap romance as well, and she is the boss's daughter, and she kind of helps nanny his kids, and she has always had a huge crush on him. It was really cute, really adorable. I really liked the characters and the romance and the 3 kids. It was such a great romance. I really enjoyed it. Then I read Toxic Desire by Robin Lovett. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is another like alien, sci-fi, paranormal, smutty romance. I was looking for something kind of similar to the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and this one kind of came up. This follows like 2 different kind of alien species who hate each other and who basically like want to kill one another, but they land on like this planet, I guess, where you get like this really bad fever where like all you want to do is have sex. It's really fucking weird. It was fun. It was weird. It wasn't as funny as the Ice Planet Barbarian series. This one I feel like was a little bit more, not serious, but like there wasn't really that many funny tones in it. I don't know, it was just like a decent read, and I did end up reading the second one, which is Captive Desire, which I ended up giving 2 out of 3 stars. I didn't like it as much as book 1 because honestly it felt like the exact same thing, just different characters, so it really wasn't anything different. Then I read When She's Ready by Ruby Dixon. This is a quick novella. It was actually for the Read Me Romance podcast, but I read the ebook version. This I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This is kind of just like a novella relating to the Ice Planet Barbarian series, I guess. It just follows a human girl who has to marry a alien to help protect her land, I guess. That's it. It was really quick. Nothing really to it. Then I read Undeniable by Melanie Harlow. This is book 2 in the Cloverleaf Farms series. This I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. I guarantee you this will probably be one of my favorite books of 2020. This is a enemies to lovers / second chance romance. It's about 2 characters who basically were inseparable when they were younger, and they always were kind of in competition with each other. As they grew up, they often dared each other, got even more competitive. Then something happened where they both stopped speaking to one another and had nothing to do with each other, and 20 years later they are back in each other's lives for some reason. I just absolutely loved this book. I didn't think I would, because it is kind of a lot of back and forth and you see a lot of like what happened in the past. I just really loved this book. I really loved the characters and the romance. Everything just felt so passionate and intense. I could feel how much they hated each other, yet they also loved each other. I just absolutely loved this book. It was just so good, and I feel like I'm not really explaining it very well. It was just so good. I really loved it, and it's definitely one of my favorite books of the year so far. Then I read the 3rd book in the Cloverleaf Farm series, which is Insatiable, and this I also gave 4 out of 5 stars. This one was really cute. This is like a best friends to lovers romance. Book 2 is obviously my favorite. Then I think it's book 1 and then book 3. I definitely enjoyed this one. It was super cute and sweet. And I loved how both characters slowly realized their feelings for one another, and it was just adorable. I really loved it. Then I read Heartland by Serena Bowen. This is book 7 in the True Noir series. This I received an arc from Serena and her team, so thank you so much for this arc. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this, but I just really couldn't connect with the characters and the romance. This is another friends to lovers type romance. This is also like a new adult romance, so they're both in college. This follows Dylan and Chastity, who are best friends, and they go to the same college. Dylan is trying to kind of figure out what he wants in life, if he wants to go to college and pursue a different career, or if he wants to continue working on the farm with his family. But he also has his best friend, who is Chastity, and she grew up very sheltered. She kind of grew up in a cult, I guess, and she escaped the cult when she was very young. They formed a really fast friendship, and she is just very innocent, very sheltered, but she has a huge crush on Dylan, and she knows that he'll never really see her that way. But things progress. It was nice to see all of the other characters from this series, but ultimately I didn't really love the characters that much, nor the romance. I just couldn't really connect. I don't know, it was an okay romance, but definitely not my favorite in this series. Then I started my author binge. I continued to read K.A. Tucker's books. I read 5 of her books in January, which is crazy, but I'm trying to catch up so that I can read The Simple Wild before Wild at Heart comes out, so fingers crossed I can do it. I have like 1 more book to read before I get to The Simple Wild, but I'm almost there. So I ended up reading Becoming Rain, which is book 2 in the Burning Waters series, and this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. This whole series is more of like a mystery contemporary series. There is romance in here, but it's not as heavy as the 10 Tiny Breaths series. This follows Luke, who is kind of mixed up in the wrong things. His uncle is part of these illegal things, like stealing cars and money, and I think drugs and all of that. So he kind of gets wrapped into that because he wants to make a lot of money. He's into cars, all that kind of stuff. And our female character, Clara, is a FBI agent, and she goes undercover, and she is set to kind of take down Luke's uncle, and so she kind of gets wrapped up into Luke and his life. I really liked the whole undercover element. I just thought that was really cool. I love the way it was written. I liked both characters. I do wish there was a little bit more romance in here. It was a great contemporary with a good mystery element. Then I read Chasing River, which is book 3 in the Burning Waters series. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't like this one as much. I think it's probably my least favorite in the series. There is a mystery element in here, but it's not that mysterious, if that makes sense. This follows Amber, who kind of saves up all her money and she decides to go to Dublin. She is traveling there, and literally I think within the first few days or hours she gets wrapped up in this park bombing. But she gets saved by this mysterious handsome guy. She kind of tries to find out who he is, which then she does, and they kind of start a relationship, but he's hiding a lot more. I think I liked the romance, but I didn't like the characters, and I definitely do feel like it was a little too long. There was definitely things in here that could have been shortened, and yeah, there was just kind of unnecessary stuff that I found was a little boring. I kept putting it down because I wasn't really that interested in the mystery element. The characters were all right. I liked the romance. That was kind of the only thing I really liked about this, to be honest. Yeah, it was like my least favorite in the series. Then I took a break from reading K.A. Tucker and I read Gabriel's Promise by Sylvain Renard. I actually had an arc of this back in like October, but I kept putting it off, and then I never really had time to read it until it actually came out in physical copy. So I just went ahead and bought a copy. I haven't hauled this yet, but this is the 4th book in the Gabriel's Inferno series. This I gave 4 to 5 stars. Really loved it, but I do have some like concerns or some like issues with it, I guess. Let me just say I love Gabriel and Julia so much, and I'm so happy we got another book from them. I loved seeing how their life is now. It basically pretty much picks up after the 3rd book. I think it's been a while since I read that book, but they're both brand new parents. It's about them dealing with parenthood and also all of the backlash from their relationship and how that started. Their reputations, essentially. They're both trying to move forward with their careers. So it's about them dealing with all of that, and also a new threat comes in the picture. As much as I loved this, I definitely do have to say it's not as flowery and beautiful writing as the initial trilogy. I feel like the initial trilogy is so beautiful with the writing. This definitely lacked that a little bit, but I still really loved it, obviously. The ending's a little open-ended, so does that mean we're getting more books? Does that mean it's going to be maybe 5 books, 6 books? I don't know, but I'm hopeful that we are going to get more. But yeah, it was just so good to read about Gabriel and Julia again. I really, really love them. I'm happy that they're pretty much very happy with their lives and that they are just succeeding in everything. I just really love them, and I really did love this. Then I read Yours in Scandal by Lauren Lane. This is the 1st book in a new series of hers. This I got an arc from NetGalley, and this I gave 4 to 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna knock it down to 3 or like 3.5. I liked it, but it definitely was hard for me to get into the book. I definitely struggled a little bit. I just didn't really like the storyline, I think, is like my main issue. I've said this time and time again, I don't like political books, and this follows a mayor who wants to become the next governor. Again, I'm not huge on political romances. I just find them really boring. I don't care about like the politic or the campaign aspect. It wasn't even that heavy in here, but it just kind of like bores me. I don't know. I don't really find it interesting at all. I did like the romance. I thought it was very cute, and both characters were great. I literally thought this was going to be my new favorite Lauren Lane, but sadly I just didn't really love it. Basically, this follows our male character who is mayor and he wants to become governor. Him and his team are trying to figure out, you know, some good campaign steps, and they end up finding this woman who is trying to hide who she is. She is actually the daughter of the current governor. She uses a different name now, and she looks completely different, but she used to be like a huge wild child, and she would cause a lot of problems for her father, but now she's over that and she's trying to run her own successful business. Our male character knows who her real identity is and tries to basically dig dirt on her father so that he can become governor instead. And again, it was cute, but it doesn't really stand out to me when I think of Lauren Lane. But I am excited for the next book in the series. Then I read Surviving Ice by Katie Tucker. This is book 4 in the Burying Waters series. This is the last book in the series. And this I did give 3 stars, but I feel like I want to bump it up to 4 because I did also really like this one. This follows Ivy, who you see in the other books. She's kind of this tough, badass character who has a bunch of tattoos and works at a tattoo parlor. She is back in San Francisco and she's working at her uncle's tattoo parlor, and she's kind of trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life, but she enjoys doing tattoos and stuff. And one day when she goes on her lunch break across the street and she comes back to the tattoo parlor, her uncle is being like questioned by these guys and then gets murdered basically in front of her eyes. But the people who murdered her uncle don't see her. So that's where our mystery element comes in. What really happened with her uncle? What was he hiding? And then our male character who comes in the picture, Sebastian, is kind of a hitman, I guess. He's essentially supposed to get close to Ivy and find out what she knew about her uncle and if he had any records of anything and all this kind of stuff. But obviously they become way too close. And again, it was kind of similar to Becoming Rain, where it was kind of a little bit of undercover work. Yeah, I liked the characters. I liked the romance. I thought Sebastian was such an interesting character. I really liked him. Ivy was pretty great as well. I liked the mystery element in this one as well. I ended up really liking it. So I think I'm going to bump it up to 4 stars. Then I read Inappropriate by Vi Keeland. This is her newest release. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed this one. Ireland gets fired for inappropriate behavior. She has worked for the company for like almost 10 years. She's dedicated her life to this company, and so she feels like the termination is wrong, and so she decides to write up a letter or email to the CEO to kind of plead her case. And it turns out to be like a really inappropriate email, but it makes Grant second guess what happened and takes it up with her boss. She does end up getting her job back, and it's about them becoming friends, but also more, and he's kind of like her boss's boss. I really liked it. I loved both characters. I loved the romance. I loved their banter. The male character was pretty sweet. Like, he wasn't a complete asshole. Like, he was really sweet at times and still like, you know, a boss. And I really liked it. I thought it was really good. Then I read Playing for Keeps by Kendall Ryan. This is book 1 in the Hot Jocks series. This is basically all like hockey romances. This first one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. It was cute, it was sweet, but nothing super special. This is like a brother's best friend romance. That makes sense. It's also like a friends to lovers. It's really cute. Then I read book 2, which is All the Way, and this one I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is another kind of friends to lovers. This follows our female character who was sexually assaulted in the past, and she has kind of a hard time getting intimate with guys, and so she asks her best friend Owen to try to help her out in that department. It was super cute, but nothing super special, again, in my opinion. I don't know. It was just kind of like a filler read. Then I read Gypsy King by Daphne Perry, and this I absolutely loved. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It was just so fantastic. I don't know why I waited so long to read this book. I wanted to read it right when it came out, but I kept putting it off because I wasn't really sure if I was in the mood for it. But I finally read it and really loved it. This, again, is kind of like a small town mystery romance. I feel like that's a lot of what I read this month was like small town romances, or like small town romances with like suspense in them, or like a mystery element. So this follows Bryce, who moves to this small town where her parents live. I think she used to grow up there. I can't remember. And she is a journalist, so she part owns the town newspaper with her dad, and she's kind of tired of just writing really like basic small town stories. She wants to get to a bigger picture, a bigger mystery, so she decides to stir up some worms and tries to get some information of the old former motorcycle club called Tin Gypsy. They used to be a very popular motorcycle club, but they closed down, and she wants to know why they did and what happened. So she's trying to dig up some information from Dash, who used to be the leader, and she wants to find things out. They have a very enemies to lovers situation. They both hate each other's guts at the beginning. Then it becomes something more. I really loved their banter and their chemistry. I loved the mystery element, a lot of the things I didn't really see coming. I was just so interested in everything, and I really loved the characters and the romance and the whole small town vibe. I just thought it was fantastic. I really, really loved it. And then I went and read book 2, which is Riven Knight. I loved this one. I can't pick which one I loved more. For some reason, like I feel like I loved them equally. This I gave 4 stars as well. The great thing about this series is I thought like book 2 would follow the same characters again, because there's still unresolved mystery happening. But it actually follows 2 other new characters. But the mystery element is still very present. It kind of ends up wrapping around these new characters. They're not new to the town, but like, you know, new to the book. So this follows Genevieve, who was part of the first book, and she was wrapped up in what happened at the end of that. Her and Isaiah, who were both wrapped up in it, something ended up happening on the side that they basically decided that it would be safer for them if they got married. So essentially they got married, they got hitched, they have known each other for only like a couple of hours, but something happened that kind of forced them to get married. The whole time you're kind of trying to figure out what exactly happened that forced them to get married, and then also the current drama that's happening, or the current mystery that's happening. I'm not really explaining these books very well, but trust me, they're so good. I love the mystery element. I love the characters. The romance was so great. This is very slow burning, but it was just really beautiful. I loved both characters and the romance, and yeah, the mystery element is just so captivating and interesting. I cried in this book like twice. I really loved it. Then I read He Will Be My Ruin by K.A. Tucker. This is a mystery thriller, I guess. I literally thought this was like a romance suspense. It's not really. There's barely a romance in here. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Definitely not my favorite K.A. Tucker book. This follows our female character, Maggie, whose best friend, Celine, has died, and her death is ruled as a suicide. But Maggie just doesn't really believe that, and Maggie is determined to figure out exactly what happened. She just really doesn't believe that her best friend would kill herself. Her best friend had so many plans and so many things happening that she just really doesn't believe it. So she tries to figure out what exactly happened, and she continues to find really mysterious things in Celine's apartment. Like, she ends up living in her apartment for a little bit, trying to clean it up, and she ends up finding all these mysterious things that make her question like what really happened, or if Celine was in, you know, some really bad stuff. She ends up finding this picture of this guy in all of Celine's stuff, and so she's wondering, does this guy have something to do with it? And so she tries to track him down. The mystery is interesting, but I do wish that K.A. Tucker would have added a 3rd suspect, just because I feel like really there's only 2 people that you suspect. I wish K.A. Tucker would have added a 3rd person, because then it would have made things like way more confusing and way more like questionable. I just feel like there wasn't enough to make me question things, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like it was very like laid out, and then you would get like hints, and then it was like you kind of figured out who did what. It was a little predictable, I guess. I don't know, I thought it was a romance, but there was no romance. I was kind of disappointed, because I thought it was going to be like this sexy romance suspense, but no. Then I read Hold You Close by Melanie Harlow and Corinne Michaels, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really loved this. I feel like if you loved Undeniable by Melanie Harlow, you will also really like this, because it does have similar vibes, in my opinion. This is a second chance romance. It follows two characters who had one moment years ago where they both basically fell in love with each other, and our male character obviously broke our female character's heart. Now years later, in unfortunate circumstances, they are brought together to raise 3 children. So her best friend and his sister passes away in an accident, and they are essentially left to raise these 3 children. And so they kind of team up to try to raise these kids, and it's bringing back all these memories of them just being in love with each other and in their lives. It's about them giving a second chance, and I really loved it. I do wish this book was a little bit longer because I feel like there could have been a little bit more. I feel like their fallout wasn't, it was very glossed over, and it wasn't like fully dissected in a way, if that makes sense. I don't feel like they fully dealt with the past, and then they just kind of like moved on. I feel like the male character just kind of brushed it off a little bit because he thought he was doing the right thing, which I get, but it also just kind of bothered me. But I still really, really love this. I love the characters. I loved the romance. And the kids were so adorable. I just thought it was a fantastic romance and definitely a new favorite. Then I read Until It Fades by Katie Tucker, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked this. This was really cute. Definitely something different from Katie Tucker in my opinion. Like her 10 Tiny Breaths series is pretty like romance heavy, but I don't feel like it was as heavy as this one for romance. Our female characters kind of had a rough teenage life and early adulthood. She was a part of a lot of scandals essentially, and she eventually becomes a single mom. She is just trying to raise her daughter and work at this restaurant. One night after a blind date, she is leaving to go home. She witnesses this car accident, and she tries to save one of the guys in the car, and essentially she rescues him, and turns out he is this famous hockey player. It brings a whole new different attention to her. She is trying to deal with all of this new attention that is like really positive because, you know, she saved somebody's life. And Brett, the male character, is very indebted to her. He, you know, wants to try to help her out, and they kind of start this friendship that turns into more. It was just super cute. Another like small town romance. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of my favorites by Katie Tucker so far. I really enjoyed it. And the last book I read in January was A Favor for a Favor by Helena Hunting. This is book 2 in the All In series. This is another hockey romance. This follows Stevie, who is the sister of the male character in the first book. So it follows her, and she is a sports therapist or rehab person. I forgot what the word is. She moves in to her brother's old apartment because he's no longer living there, and she recently broke up with her boyfriend, so she's kind of having a little bit of a hard time. So she moved into this new apartment, and across from her apartment is this grumpy, rude, obnoxious dude who turns out to be a teammate on her brother's hockey team. They have like this rude banter going on. Bishop, the male character, he ends up getting a groin injury, and Stevie offers to help with his rehab, and it's them kind of trying to form a friendship. Really, really cute. I really loved the characters. I loved the romance. I loved how Bishop was kind of like a grumpy guy, but also like really sweet. Both characters were fantastic, and the romance was really good. Definitely one of my favorite hockey romances. I'm really, really loving this series, and I can't wait to read the next one. So that was it for my January wrap up. Let me know how many books you guys read in January. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!